Okay. Hello, comrades out there in Denver land and beyond. My name is Jason Justice. I'm a member of the Denver Green Party, and this is our new live stream series. This is number 2 of the year. Kind of bringing folks up to date with what's happening in the neoliberal bastion that is Denver, Colorado, right from the practice dungeon here in my house in Denver. So, glad you're with us. We got a couple of interesting things to talk about. Some stuff that has to do with the Denver School Board, with the Denver City Council, and with the Nazis who are always around and they just show up when they're not even invited. They're so rude. They're just so rude. Anyway, so I'm going to dive right in with a couple of things. Couple of national things. Biden administration is withdrawing the COVID-19 vaccination and testing for corporations. Uh, I just want to say, way to go. Elected Democrats, always with the backbone, right? Always doing what's right for the American people. You know, I know that the Supreme Court wouldn't have gone with it, but, you know, I think that saving lives is a good thing. Having had COVID, and many people are getting it right now. My parents just got it. My brother got it. His 3-year-old got it. They're all doing great, but we need to take this a little more seriously on the national level. We did get out actually our tests from the government. They mailed them out to us. And I was like, why not just make them free at Walgreens? But they're doing it through the U.S. Postal Service, so that helps our comrades that are postal carriers and who are in the postal union. So okay, you know, I see that's all right. Another little tidbit is this has been a bad week in Colorado vis-a-vis Nazis and anti-Semitism. So I've got a little link that I'm going to put up in the chat, or I'm going to. Our good friend Danielle is with us once again, manning the helm here, and she'll put this in the main chat. This is from. Let's see. This is from the Colorado Times Recorder, and the headline is "The Schomer: From Lauren Boebert to Neo-Nazis. It's been a week of anti-Semitism in Colorado." Residents of the Country Club neighborhood of Denver at Marion Street and First, which is pretty close to where I kind of hang out, were greeted with a rude awakening the morning of January 23rd when they discovered their block had been targeted overnight with a flyer drop by the so-called Goyim Defense League, a neo-Nazi organization who has been waging a disinformation war across the country for several months. Well, yes, around the U.S. for several months, but that disinformation, that's been coming since the 1920s. Anyway, um, they put out a flyer that basically it blames our Jewish brothers and sisters and folks. I'm just going to say folks um, with the whole COVID pandemic. Typical shit for these kind of people. Complete morons. And look over here, not you, Des. This is our good friend Dr. Desmond Wallington. He's here with us as well. Say hi, sir.
Hi, I finally got the audio visual.
I'm not. Let me pull this out. Try it again.
Can you hear me? Is this better?
Let me see. Yeah, I can't hear you. Danielle, can you hear him?
Is this better?
Or is it just me? Is it not you? It's me. It's not you. It's me.
Uh,
Choppy. Okay. All right.
okay.
Let me
Is this
see if I can
better?
adjust my
I have the mic.
thing here. Audio. Folks, this is live, so it's always interesting. Um, yeah, that's strange. Let me see if it's up. This can you speak again, Des? It may be I hear
Oh,
you.
that's changed a
It's
little bit.
it.
Is that better?
Yours is still choppy.
No,
It's really kind of
copy.
choppy. I'm not sure
Is it
why.
like a
Yeah,
helicopter
like
kind of
it's kind
thing?
of like got an echo on it, that kind of thing.
Okay, let me. Oh, Boesberg.
Okay. So I'm gonna finish talking about while Des works on that this the Nazis and how they love to be in Colorado. This isn't a new thing in Capitol Hill. Obviously, in Denver, we've always had a tiny little contingent of completely whacked out Nazis running around Capitol Hill. I remember back in the 80s, there was quite a few skinheads running around. You still see them from time to time. They've mostly been chased out of the neighborhood, but anyway, it's a real weird, it's a real weird dynamic in this part of town. In this article, you'll see a nice little picture of a bunch of completely idiotic looking white dudes with their arms up in the air in the party salute. They've done things like, and they have, uh, I wouldn't suggest going to this. The Goyim Defense League has a website, obviously, because that's the way that they spread the hate. But also, they drop banners on overpasses, um, and it's all just the worst anti-Semitic rhetoric. And then scrolling down, let's also talk about our good friend, the Congressperson, U.S. Representative from the 3rd Congressional District, Lauren Boesberg, who's been involved in her own anti Semitic dust up this last week as well. Last Thursday, on January 20th, a group of Jews were touring the U.S. Capitol, and members of the group, which were meeting with Representative Tom Sosi, were wearing their yarmulkes, and the person conducting the group is Orthodox, so he's got a traditional beard. They're pretty easy to identify as being Jews, and they got off of the because they had yarmulkes on. I'm not saying for any other reason, but they got off the elevator, and Boesberg looks them up and down and says to them, "Are you here to conduct reconnaissance?" So it's just, and this is just days after the hostage siege down at the Beth Israel Synagogue in Colleyville, Texas. So, I mean, let's can would somebody on the right just kind of disavow this kind of behavior? They're not going to do it, of course, because these are the stormtroopers for the right wing movement. But yeah, this is pay attention. Pay attention to this kind of stuff, folks. I think it's important. Um, Des, do you want to say anything about Nazis? Ah,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm gonna
it's not
come
so
out.
great. Your connection's still a
Oh,
little
it's a
weird.
button. Damn it. Alright, yeah, maybe.
Okay, he's muting himself, so he's still working on it a little bit. All right, so I'm going to move on now to Denver City Council is considering changing public comment and rules in the meeting times. Somebody has made, I believe, Chris Herndon has made the proposal that they split the meetings up from and do half of the meeting during the day, like around noon, and the other half of the meeting at night. Well, people got to work. So the only time that you, and then also restricting people and commenting to like once every 90 days. Um, you know, this is your job. You get paid $100,000 a year to hold this city council seat. So I think, let's see, I think you just need to leave it alone. Working class people are working. Um, yeah, so working class people are working, and they don't have time to take time off during the day to come in and do public comment. So once again, moving towards a lack of democracy. What a surprise! That's no surprise in this city. Last week, I'm going to move on now to another local issue. Last week, Des, I believe, is coming back on right now.
I'm thinking I got the
Yeah, it's still
no.
doing the same thing. Yeah, it's not working. So it's okay, bud. It's okay. Um, Last week we talked about how some of our uh, about the ballot initiatives from last fall, and one of them that was upheld was Denver has the City Park Golf Course. Uh, West Side Investment Group, property owners, whatever, they wanted to develop the golf course. And we won because we wanted it kept as an open space. But here's the beautiful part to that. Let me find that article and I'll put it up in here. Okay. So they've actually put a committee together. So we, the voters, said we want to keep this open space an open space. Let me put the article up here for y'all to check out. Um, so we wanted to keep it as an open space, and that's what the voters said to do. However, the mayor's office and actually Parks and Recs, under the able guidance of Happy Haynes, and I say that with kind of tongue in cheek. Um, they put a group together trying to figure out how they're going to best use this space. Some of it is going to be open space, and then how they're going to develop it. Are they going to put uh, more apartments? Or are they going to put a grocery store in there? And it's like, hold up, hold up. We voted to keep it an open space. We didn't vote for the mayor's office and for Parks and Recs to to do this undemocratic thing. Not a surprise that the Hancock administration and the people that love him, the city council, love to do shit undemocratically. And so they put together an advisory group or whatever, and they kicked off um, this group from another group that was part of that called Save Open Space. Was a group that worked to keep this as a open space or a green space, and they decided that not only were they not going to let they didn't want to deal with the people from the Save Open Space, but they kicked them. They took the seat away, so there's not even anybody representing us um, on representing the will of the voters in this group. Um, that so there. Once again, it's a it's just this crazy undemocratic crap that we're always faced with in this town. A couple of years ago, we passed this green roofs initiative, meaning that developers were going to have to make sure that the roofs on the buildings that they own were you know, were basically a green space. It was gonna help with pollution, and it was going to help with not be reflecting back the heat into the sun or into space, and adding to global warming. And so the mayor's office put together an advisory group on this after we the people voted, and guess what? The green space, or the rooftop green space initiative that we voted yes on, is now dead in the water. And so this, as Green Party members, not just because of our that we are focused on environmentalism and that kind of stuff, um, the it it's it's this undemocratic neoliberal, the fact that developers actually control this town, run this town, forcing people out of their homes, raising the rent in this town, you know, buying uh, politicians on the city council, buying people in the mayor's office, buying people in the state legislature. Now, I haven't done a deep dive into the campaign contributions to these folks, but I can guess that West Side Investment has definitely put money into people's campaigns. So maybe that's an interesting thing to look at in the before next 2 weeks from now when we go back live again. But you know, there's a lot of money changing hands, and the thing about the biggest problem with SOS, the Save Our Space group, is that they wanted a seat at the table. Comrades, there's a saying that liberals always use, which is it's better to be at the table than on the menu, right? I've heard it a number of times, and meaning that we've got to compromise, and we've got to do these things so that uh, we've got to be there so that we can hold them in check, folks. George Carlin once said, "It's a small club, and you ain't part of it." And that's so the truth. Um, we don't, you and me, working class folks, people that have to work 2 or 3 jobs, don't have time to go to all of these meetings and that kind of thing. We are not at the table. We're if there is a table for us, just think back to when you were 6 and 7 years old, and there was a kiddie table around the holidays that you had to sit at, and all of the adults were over at the main table, right? We ain't at the table. We ain't at the table, and so you know, this is just yet another bait and switch. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's one of the reasons that we're doing these live streams. The live streams that we're doing is to kind of keep you informed what's going on, and also to say, hey, it would be nice if we could get a couple of other people to look at things that are going on in the city council, on the school board, in the legislature. We need help. This is a small organization right now, and we certainly would like more people to come help out so we can keep our eyes on what these people are doing. They are feckless, and they are bought and paid for, and we're just kind of, we get the illusion of voting for things that we support, like an open space like this, and then they turn around and they change it again. I hate to quote George Carlin twice in the same show. The capitalism gives us the illusion of choice because we have 36 kinds of toothpaste, 15 kinds of milk that to choose from at the grocery store. Oh yeah, we got choice on everything. The important stuff we don't have any say on. And if we are able to make more noise, about this kind of stuff. If we have more of our folks in there in these meetings, which let me just tell you right now, Democrats, they don't want us anywhere near their little pool that they're playing in. But we need to force ourselves in, and so this is kind of an entree into that with these live streams. So that was something else I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, the another thing with the Denver City Council this week. Um, so I'm going to put the article about changing the meeting times up here. Give me just a second. I'm going to grab that. Denver City Council changing their meeting times. There you are. Let me get back here and get this into the chat. I'm all right. This is about the meeting times, and this is another little thing from our beautiful city council. They just voted to give $500,000 to a college student who was struck by non-lethal rounds during the George Floyd protests. So last couple of summers ago, when the Floyd protests were happening all over the country, Denver Police Department didn't fail to disappoint and came out like the armed thugs that they are, and they used their non-lethal rounds, and they put out a couple of three people's eyes. They shot people in the genitals with them. This is training that they get from, well, we'll talk about it another time. IDF does a lot of Israeli Defense Force, and people that used to be part of that come over to the United States and do a lot of training with our police officers and stuff like that. And so they're trained to shoot people in the face with these non-lethal rounds. They're trained to shoot people in the genitals with these non-lethal rounds, and they're lethal. If you get a few years during the Ferguson uprising, I believe there was a Army vet who was hit in the eye with a plastic bullet or a rubber bullet, and it went into his brain and caused serious brain damage and all that kind of stuff. What the hell are you doing? We're actually citizens of this country, and for you to be shooting us when we are out there practicing our First Amendment rights to protest injustice in this country, it's pretty ridiculous. So let me put this link up too, if I didn't already do that. And this is for the settlement. The other part of this is every time the police have to do a settlement, that's your money and my money that's being spent on having to pay out because we have a bunch of vigilante like folks in the police department who just are they can't wait. They can't wait to put the beat down on folks. They can't wait to hurt people because that'll keep us from going out in the streets and protesting. Guess what? We're still going to be out there. We're going to still be out there. Do we want to check Dez's his levels? I'm not. Maybe. I'm not hearing him yet either. Let's see. This just in. Got an instant message. No sound. Okay. So no sound coming from Dez. All right. Sorry, buddy. Dez is with us in spirit, man. This is the spirit of Desmond Wallington. He is the angel on our shoulder, the person we've needed all along. Also, it's always good to have a psychologist on these calls because it's a little extra therapy I get. Thank you, Des. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about another thing that's going on right now. Last week we were talking about Denver Public Schools and the fact that they have gone to policy governance, which is basically the DPS board floats around from on a 30,000 foot level, and Oh, thank you. Somebody just said that Des missed an interpretive dance opportunity on the thing. So next week, 2 weeks from now, we'll bring the interpretive dance in to the Green Party of Denver's live streams. So we talked a little bit about policy governance last week, and unfortunately, it's a model that's used in nonprofits that basically says the board oversees whoever the CEO is, or in this case, the superintendent of Denver Public Schools, and they are in charge of the day-to-day operations, and the board doesn't get involved with that. Well, I'm going to put a link to Wikipedia's page. I know Wikipedia. I know. Don't be angry with me. It's there though. There's actually some interesting information there about policy governance. The problem with policy governance is that when we elect people to a position in government, we elect them to look out for our interest, the voters' interest, not from a 30,000 foot level, but we want to make sure that they're in there taking care of uh, making sure that the personnel issues are not weird and people aren't getting screwed over. A lot of times, especially in DPS, the in the past, union teachers have been targeted for removal. The second that they find out that you're in the union, the principals start treating you worse. They force union members out and that kind of thing. Also, they can try and sneak through um, one of the things with DPS and policy governance is it gives the superintendent up to just under $1 million that he can spend before he needs to go get board approval on it. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but $1 million is still a lot of money to me. And so that doesn't, and here's the thing that I've read about policy governance. It puts way too much power into one person's hand, right? And that's the superintendent. Now we want to have a superintendent in Denver Public Schools that is that's able to make decisions without having to run to the board every time. But here's why it's a bad thing sometimes. And this is about a principle, and I wonder if y'all have heard about this. I'm going to put this into the chat here, and this is from I believe Channel 7, Denver Channel, and there's a principal at a school. No, that's the wrong one. Oh, sorry. That's another thing that I'm going to get to in just a second. But let's see. Where's that article? Sorry, I've got 1,000 tabs open here. Just trying to keep us informed, y'all. Let me get rid of a couple of these. So there's a principal in the far northeast who has been put on administrative leave pending an investigation. Let's call her Becky for the time being. Becky is I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You probably guessed that Becky is white. And the school that she is at in that part of town is 92 to 93% students of color. And she's made some comments, done some really strange things. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to have to I'll pull that article up again. She Let's just say that she has not been acting, and here's the link to that. I'm terribly sorry, folks, but I got it a little bit out of order. Yeah, there you go. She hasn't she didn't really have any training to come into this job, and she's leaving, put on administrative leave following allegations of discrimination. And the school is called McGlone Academy, and they're saying that removed pending an investigation. This comes after students and parents said she showed pattern of discrimination and microaggressions towards the Black and Latino communities. And the original story is buried in this piece from the Denver channel, CBS 4. This is why DPS knew this was happening, right? And and there have been complaints about her for a while, and this is why policy governance doesn't work. Whoever was the director or the elected person to the DPS board from that part of town should have been paying attention to this closely enough where they could have gone to the superintendent and said, I want this principal removed as soon as possible, not after it makes the news, before it makes the news, when you hear about it. And of course they're like, oh, this is a standard procedure to put people on leave pending an investigation. I'm sorry, not when it comes to our kids. If somebody's in there and they lack the cultural sensitivity, if Becky gets in there and she's wondering what, what's wrong with these kids or whatever the hell she's got going through her brain, that she hasn't, they have not done the work to be an ally and to be helpful to the kids that they're teaching. 92% of that school are kids of color. This is ridiculous. And she may have been probably hired when the last board was on, which had an incredible number of racists who are now gone. Some are gone, but some are still there. Some white people that are on the school board, they're still there, and they basically, they condone this kind of thing. They let the superintendent handle it. Hey, that's a personnel issue. No, bullshit. You are elected by the people to protect our interests and to protect our kids. So this is just a one little facet of the idea of policy governance. It's undemocratic, and you know that's not what we the voters put you there to do. We put you there to protect our kids from people like this. And I know that in the past, when there have been problems in DPS with principals, they just got removed. If it turned out that they were threatening to call La Migra on the kids in the school, that they got removed. Or if they were saying stupid stuff, or doing sexual harassment of staff and that kind of thing, they got removed. It wasn't, we're gonna, let's put out this press release and we're doing an investigation. No, they got removed. And everybody deserves the right of due process. That's not what I'm saying. So, but they knew this was going on, and it took it coming out in the news before they did anything. So, um, a lot of people of color, um, they're sick of it in Denver public schools. It's been, and I've heard people say it's been run as if it's a plantation. Tell me I'm wrong. That's not what's going on. It's We have to always be vigilant about this, folks. We always have to be vigilant about this. We can't just, oh well, she had good intentions. That doesn't mean anything. Good intentions doesn't buy you a $5 cup of coffee at Starbucks. Good intentions don't get our kids the right kind of support from the administrative level. So, which brings me to the last thing has to do with DPS again, and that is, and I'm going to put up a link to a right wing publication, and it's the title is, and it's from the Free Press. I also saw this in the Gazette, the Colorado Gazette. The Gazette is out of Colorado Springs, and they're putting their online tentacles out there, and tentacles they are indeed. It's a complete right wing piece of shit rag, and they have some of the worst people on their editorial board. I believe Phil Anschutz's son is on that board, and he is a piece of work. I mean, Jesus Christ, this guy. Anyway, so the headline is Denver Elementary School to hold BLM event teaching kindergartners, first graders to disrupt the nuclear family. So every year from January 31st, and I'm going to put that link up. I'm giving you the link. I'm giving you the link. There it is. It's coming. Sorry. Every year, Black Lives Matter does a teaching for, and I'm also going to, I've got this second link prepared, and I'll put it up in just a second. Black Lives Matter does this teaching nationwide from January 31st to February 2nd, teaching about Black Lives Matter, what the white right wing freaks out about. Critical race theory. Guess what critical race theory is, folks? History. Guess what happened in this country for the last 400 years? Racism, slavery, Jim Crow laws, police over policing black and brown communities, killing unarmed black and brown people in the street, lynching. All of that is part of our history. And if you ignore it, we repeat it. And so there's been a lot of talk on the right wing websites and news channels about how this school up on the north side here in Denver, some people call it the Highlands. I call it the north side. It's always been the north side. It always will be the north side, even though realtors want to make sure that the north side, that, a lot of Chicanos use that to, that's what they call this part of town. We need to call it the Highlands. This is the Highlands, right? You got to change the name to make it more white and more acceptable. So this school actually helps their families of color connect with one another, so they don't feel so all alone in this lily white gentrified neighborhood. And the right wingers are losing their shit. They say that this is absolutely against the 1964, wait for it, Civil Rights Act. Guess what, white people? You're not a protected class in this country. You get everything the way you want it all the time, 24/7. A couple of black families want to get together and meet each other so that they know that they have support. But what do white people want to do? They want to put their big fat white thumb in the middle of all of that shit. They want to make sure that everybody knows that they're dominated by the white culture, and it's bullshit. And so that whole, this violates the 1964 Civil Rights Act. You're not a protected class, white folks. It's just the freaking nerve of these people. And that's Phil Anschutz's son. The editorial board of the Gazette, which this guy sits on, he's also on the board of the um, Denver Center for the Performing Arts and the Denver Historical Society, or the Colorado Historical Society. Gee, I wonder what kind of history he's trying to suppress. Maybe maybe the extinction of indigenous people in this state, right around the Civil War. That's when all the Cheyenne and Arapaho were forcibly removed. That's when the Ute tribe was moved to the far southwestern corner of the state. I, we don't want to talk about Sand Creek Massacre. Colonel Shivington and a bunch of militia people go down to Sand Creek in the southeastern corner of the state, and they massacre a bunch of of elderly people and women and children at a little encampment called Sand Creek. And then they came back to Denver with their trophies and went paraded up Larimer Square with this stuff. This is all public record. This is all true. That with literally with body parts. I'm sorry to it, but that's the way it is. Right up Larimer Square, where you've had coffee, where you've had dinner, where you bought stuff. Right there on Larimer Square, they paraded into town with that stuff. We have to keep vigilant, folks. If we let the right wing have its way, they're going to come in and it's going to be the same thing. One of the things that we have to know about the right is that they're literally we're trying to organize as the Green Party to help people. The Democrats, the elected Democrats, I'm not talking about you rank and file Democrat voters. It's not you, it's your elected officials. They're worried about getting paid. But the right wing is organizing for genocide, right? That's what they're doing. That's why they don't say anything about neo Nazis. They say it's a hoax. That's why they call the beer belly putsch on January 6th of last year, the failed coup attempt by the Trumpies and the Trumps and their supporters. That's why they say that was Antifa. That wasn't a bunch of doughy middle-aged white dudes trying to turn over the election results. So they've been talking a lot of shit about this school up up on the north side. And let me put this up. An incident happened this week where some dude showed up at the school and he rings the buzzer and they let him in. And he's like, I'm here to enroll my granddaughter. And so he gets inside and they give him all, and you'll see it in this article from the Denver Channel. He gets inside and they're handing him the stuff and everything's real pleasant. And then he's like, you've got to stop this Black Lives Matter event. You've got to stop the critical race theory, the indoctrination of these children. And they kick him out the door, and he stands outside with a sign berating the children and their parents, and as their parents come to pick him up. And so DPS, the school had to call DPS security, and security had to come and remove him. This is what happens with these op-ed pieces that these right-wingers do. There's some nut out there who is triggered by this stuff, and he shows up at the school to try and throw his white weight around and intimidate little kids and their parents and teachers and staff, and that just won't stand. So so it's just something to be aware of. It's just another outrage from the right wing. There's two things that those folks have going on for themselves. Two parts of their ideology we have to understand. One is they don't want any kind of change. And the second thing is they don't want any kind of equality. They don't want equity for anybody. They just want what's white. Oh, I'm sorry, what's right for themselves. I guess it's all white, it's all right, right? So anyway, folks, that's about as much as I have to talk about this week. I'm sorry that Des couldn't get on. Really wanted to get his insight on all of this stuff. We're talking to you because the Denver Green Party needs your help. We have a place you can go to sign up on our website, a place you can donate. We'd love that. We'd love to have people who want to get involved with us and want to help us watchdog these groups. In the upcoming weeks, we've been talking about a couple of pretty exciting things that will start to unravel in the upcoming weeks in our live streams. Some ways that we can all get together and talk to each other, but we need you, and we have to be the gatekeepers, because if we leave it up to the Denver City Council, they ain't gonna help us. If we leave it up to the mayor's office, they ain't gonna help us. We're in this together, and we're a bigger club than their tiny little neoliberal club. We got to be watching these people, and also watching the right wing as they try to make more inroads into this city and into this state. So once again, the Denver Green Party. Go to our website, check us out. All the links are in the stream there to the side. I want to thank you for being here with us. My name is Jason Justice. Thank you, Danielle, for running the live stream on the back end. 2 weeks from now, we'll be back. We'll be back with the good doctor and maybe a cast of other thousands of folks. We're going to work on. Oh, and I do want to mention one last thing before I go. Every Saturday, our former presidential candidate from 2000, Howie Hawkins, does a live stream at 1 o'clock Mountain Time, and I'm going to put the link to his website. This cat is pretty brilliant. He's a historical encyclopedia about leftism and about stuff that he's been working on for the last 30 or 40 years. A lot of great talk about the Green Party and the eco-socialist move that it's made. Remember, the Green New Deal is ours, and it's not the Green New Deal that the squad has put forth. Our Green New Deal is not about capitalism. Our Green New Deal is about saving the planet. So tune in for that on Saturdays at 1 o'clock. And in a couple of weeks, we'll be back talking about more local issues. We would love to hear from you. Let us know if what you're thinking about, things that maybe you see. You can share them with us. Send us a message on Facebook. Send us a message through our website. We want to know what you know, and together, if we all know, then we'll all know. That doesn't make any sense, but but certainly it would be cool to get your insight into these issues. And we're going to be watching this Denver open space, the Park Hill Golf Course thing pretty closely. We're going to be watching the city council on their rules changes, and DPS, we're watching you and how you protect our kids at that elementary school up on the north side, and how you're dealing with this principal who is now on leave, because why in the hell did you put a white woman in charge of the school that's 92% Latino, so, and African American and Latino kids of color. So y'all have a good night, and we'll see you 2 weeks from now. Y'all take care.